Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Block Party number 164, as well as episode 9 of the Start is Near podcast. I'm going to let everyone jump in either now or whenever is a natural time for you to feel like to start talking. So introduce yourself either now or later. And with that, whenever I say I pass the microphone, if I don't hear anything back in a few seconds, I'll feel free to keep talking, and I do have a lot to share, but in no particular urgency. I'd much rather we address questions and comments and introductions as you wish first, and then we can jump into the heart of it. We have plenty of time. Passing the Okay. And assuming we're streaming to the main room, let me start with just a little bit of high-level introduction, and then we can get into the details of what we're talking about. At the highest level, we have what we call collective human superintelligence with the acronym CHSI, which some of us lovingly pronounce CHISI. And it, at the highest theoretical level, it exists as, I'll just use these circles as representing conversations, and little black dots as people in those conversations. We're talking about a vast and growing and unbounded network that just keeps growing of conversations that are public and hyper-connected, and that you can, we're literally talking about creating the search, for the Google of conversations. And so part of mission is CHISI. I just want to draw a distinction. CHISI spelled with the double Z, that's us, right? Getting together, doing our thing. And but we keep that distinct from CHSI, the acronym, Collective Human Superintelligence. That is what we are now characterizing as the emergent inevitability. So CHSI is, in a sense, this emergent inevitability, this citadel, this telos, this thing that we're striving for, that I think we're going to break through into with no problem at all. And that's what we'll get into with the details. But so it's this emergent thing. It doesn't depend upon us. It's happening. And it's happening all over the place in different ways that are now coming together as one. This is an absolutely singular thing. There will only be one, CHSI for all of humanity. Now, CHISI is what we're doing, and part of what we're doing is helping set the stage for this search of conversations, right, to come into being. And but another thing that we also see as part of our mission is to do what we do best, add our best ingredients to the emergent stone soup, and that also includes catalyzing new conversations of a very specific nature. Everyone can see my drawings, right? James Finch. Oh yeah, James. Yeah. He's invited by Mike. Yeah, I say bring in James. All right. And the conversations that we're catalyzing right now that we're gonna drill into, as the subject of today's email indicated, is that of the after party. And when I say the after party, what I really mean is ideally, and I think in most cases we'll do it, start it off with a watch party. All it requires is somebody showing up 30 minutes earlier and hitting screen share. And then if you've already seen it, you can skip the watch party, but that is immediately followed, not 1 second later, immediately, as soon as the screen share ends and people clap, we're now into the after party, right? So if I use after party in shorthand, what I really mean is break it down into both of these portions, right? And I suppose if it's a really important event, and a lot of these are, and increasingly are urgent, as we start to get our act together collectively through this emergent inevitability of CHSI, we could even throw in a tailgate party. Why not? But anyway, this is kind of an optional extra. The two core pieces are watch party and after party, and I sometimes combine those to call it a wafter party, just for shorthand. But anyway, with that, I'm going to either stop screen share unless somebody wants me to keep screen sharing, and pass the microphone. And thank you all for your listening. And I've got tons more to say. My bandwidth is a little low, so I'm going to be just on microphone. I'll test out video as we go. But anyway, passing the feather, and thank you all for your wonderful listening.
Yeah, amazing. So collective human superintelligence is like interlinked conversations.
Yeah.
Interlinked conversations.
Right. I got to interrupt for a minute. Can we kill the music that's playing?
I think so.
And we've also got some echo going on, at least from Marco. I don't know if we have echo
That's
from
probably coming through the watching the live stream.
Oh, okay. All right. So just careful with that, Marco. All right. And yeah, exactly. So CHSI, and or I'll just say Chizzy, but just keep clear in your mind which is which. But the CHSI Chizzy is we envision it. I'll speak for myself and anyone who agrees with me, but we envision it, and feel free to disagree, but we envision it exactly as Victor said, as fundamentally a network of conversations that are, basically public. And there's shades of gray between public and private, and we'll get into those details. But there's walk on in kind of public, like the block party is, and there's others where you have to request permission or have an invite or whatever. So anyway, but we'll talk about those shades of gray as we go. Not that they're unimportant; they're extremely important. But we're talking about conversations that are basically public and accessible. Like you can request to join. If you can't, just walk right in, which is the ideal. That's what I call fully public. If you don't want to do fully public and you want people to request an invite, okay, great. Just please be as responsive as you can, et cetera, et cetera. And regardless of how easy or hard it is to get into a specific conversation, a lot of these conversations are going to be broadcasting, transcribing, et cetera. And all of this constitutes this hyperlinkage across this emergent hyper object of Chizzy, right? CHSI. And we're doing our contribution as Chizzy ZZY, which is, like I said, helping create favorable conditions for the search of conversations to emerge, regardless of who does it. And then also catalyzing new conversations like the watch party, after party, wafter party combination that I've been talking about, which we'll get into more details of, because that is going to catalyze, oh my goodness, countless new conversations and series of conversations that in turn, each of which will be grounded in some solid artifact like say an important Paul Beckwith video, for example, right? And he may do those once a month, for instance, rather than, wear people down with like a weekly thing or something like that. We haven't actually engaged with Paul yet, but I use him as a real life
I have my
example
hand
because
up.
we email. Oh, I'm so sorry, Victor. Go for it. Go.
Cool. So Peter, Jack, Samuel, happy you're here. Feels a wee bit lonely to just be with Marco on video. Wonder if Jamin might be able to make that work. I'm curious from Peter and Jack and Samuel, like what's landing so far? Like I'm wondering whether this whole like Chizzy thing is just sort of like really mimetically like, you know, rockable. This is like uh kind of up in the air, ephemeral, or like what you're like what's coming up at the moment around it, what you're hearing.
Well, I'll say for me, we ran this experiment whenever that was 3 years ago with the harmonic convergence, and it worked beautifully to give people who are sitting watching something a chance to connect in real time together. So I know this idea is empowering for the audience. I wonder how many people do anything like this already. Not that that matters, I guess. Um, but I think that the potential to partner up with other events and people and calls and be the place. There's a word I'm missing, but the hub for where people might go to be part of an after conversation for any variety of things. I think we have a chance to, to create a new, or not a new model, but a model in the digital Zoom world where these after parties are more common, and then hope to catalog, I guess, if I'm understanding Jamin's vision right, catalog those and offer them and offer the recordings of those. And so I'm here and listening and exploring the new vision of how this unfolds.
Thank you, Peter.
Jack, yeah, go for it. Jack, your microphone is muted. Your mic.
Yeah, I was just turning the camera on. I don't have a comment at the moment.
Okay, fair
Cool.
enough.
Thank
Fair
you.
enough. Yeah, thank you, thank you. So, let me just there's different areas that we could delve into. Who wants me to delve into what first? I'm happy to go right to the practical, and because we've got a real nice, beautiful hot potato right in our hands right now that we're working with in the form of Paul Beckwith. And so I'm happy to talk. That's just like a real life case study, and everyone can relate to it. And we're not talking about something theoretical, we're talking about something actual. So I would suggest we start from there as a case study in an after party, which hopefully will become a recurrent after party, a recurring rather after party. But if anyone has any questions about the fundamental theoretical, but I say theory schmeary, the reason this hasn't happened yet is no one's created the right model. I think with the combination of the after party and Chizzy and the search for conversations, Chizzy as a story, as a meme, I think you said mimetically viable, something to that effect, Victor. I forget exactly what, was that it? Something to that effect. Okay, great, thanks. Please clarify anytime. Is it viable as a meme? Well, here's the thing. To paraphrase Tony Montana from Scarface, you get to know me when you start doing business with me, right? In an early scene at that motel. But anyway, that dates me and probably, anyway. so that's my proposal, is that we go straight into this real life example that's happening as we speak, and Paul may join us later today. I don't know. Well, James is working that out with Paul. James from Ireland, of course, communicated directly with Paul. But so raise your hand, give me thumbs up if you want me to go straight into the Paul Beckwith example, which will make it real, and then we can talk about where we go from there. Or if you'd rather talk theory first, happy to talk theory. Okay, I'm seeing thumbs up, mullets up, thumbs up.
Well,
Okay.
Just wanted to,
And Marco,
to
you're
introduce
muted in case.
a distinction is all. So I wanted to. So there's a version of like collective intelligence, right? I guess I'm wanting to like touch on the distinction between collective intelligence and collective, superhuman super intelligence for just a second, because like Peter's right? So in a way, like broadcast media is kind of like collective human intelligence. It's a bit more like collective data dissemination or something like that than intelligence per se. Like, I think intelligence comes from like making sense of, right? Maybe, or processing in some way. So like the version of collective human intelligence that's like I don't know, you could say social media is like that, right? Social media is maybe like a form of collective intelligence. It's like you're sharing ideas, responding to them, like the kind of modality that you were talking about, where there's an audience, right? And like an audience of a group or a speaker, and there's an opportunity to sort of like interact, with that speaker or group or whatever. You can do that just by like kind of a town hall kind of a thing, or like, streamers on YouTube or whatever, have the chat, and there's like a chatterfall kind of a thing, and people can share what they're talking about. So like collective human super intelligence, I think seems to me to be like, well, the super bit is like scale. You're certainly not able to have a whole bunch of people in the room talking simultaneously. That ends up devolving into chaos, which is probably why things like town hall models like came about in the first place. But like, so given that there's like that kind of, attention or participation constraint, only so many people can be involved in a conversation at once. So, how to move to a collective human superintelligence where like there is like a networked participation, and the idea of conceiving it as like a network of conversations is interesting, because in each conversation there's like a limited number of direct participants, but the concept of networking like these conversations in such a way that it like makes it possible to bring the right information to the right people at the right time, right? And that may mean like directly connecting individual ongoing conversations. That I think is what you were describing as like search or something like that. I just wanted to like, yeah, to kind of feel around that a little bit. I feel complete. Jana?
Oh, thank you. I intentionally waited because I think it's good etiquette for the current speaker to acknowledge and invite the next one when they've got their hand up. Okay, so thank you
very
for
good.
playing. Thank you for playing that way. That helps. Okay, so turning off my camera, and unless I'm coming through loud and clear, I'll turn off camera.
Good for now.
Because we had some. Okay, just tell me if there's hiccups, and I'm happy to anyway. So totally agree. Now, I really like what you said about Chatterfall, because that's probably the closest thing that we've got in any kind of volume out there in the conversation space that makes it participatory. What we're talking about is Zoom meetings. Let's just okay, fine. You want to use the Jitsi platform, you want to use Facebook Live, go for it. But I'm basically saying, when I say Zoom, I really mean all those. So it's Zoomosphere gone wild. So for example, take the 1 out of 1,000 of us who are the most dialed in and the most wanting to connect with the rest of humanity. The 1/1000th of us, so the 99.9th percentile, 1/1000 out of 8 billion people is 8 million people. And let's say the average conversation size is 8-ish people like we have right now. Okay, 8-ish. You're talking about 1 million conversations. 1 million conversations if each person does only one. Well, a lot of us are polyamorous and go from conversation to conversation. We're cross-pollinating. That's what creates the strongest forms of hyperlinkage. Also, having a map, a calendar, a visual map, like an ontological sort of, taxonomic representation in however dimensions, and you can, whatever, a map, a calendar, a search engine. All these are supported by a database. So that's why I just emphasize the database of all, I'll just say sufficiently public conversations, right? And I know we're throwing out a lot of concepts really quickly here, so I'm going to pause for station identification and any questions or comments at this time. Passing the All right, so far from 1 million conversations with 8 people each, all right, which is a very reasonable milestone. I mean, give me a break. There's easily 1 in 1,000 of us spanning all continents and cultures who are just absolutely right up. Basically, people like us. Let's face it, people like us. Stop for a moment and acknowledge yourself. You're in the 1 in 1,000. And the rest of us can't wait to be talking with us. It's like we're a couple of 40-year-old virgins on a Saturday night on our 8th date. It's time to freaking get it on. It's time for the 8 million of us to get it on. So we start with one, and it's going to be a dominoes thing. The first one is Paul Beckwith. And just raise your hand or jump in if you have questions. Seriously, I talk so much, you can just jump in. Don't worry about hurting my feelings or breaking etiquette or anything. Paul Beckwith, his most watched videos, I think it's 30-some thousand views or something like that. But it depends on the topic. Some get a lot less. But he's got a following and a reputation. We met him at COP26 in Glasgow, Scotland, in the end of 2021, and have been friends ever since. And anyway, so he's got this significant audience related to global warming and problems and solutions. And he's quite outspoken, so his audience loves him. The next step is for the audience to be able to come together and meet. That's an after party, or a watch party followed by an after party. And it can be the kind of thing where, he knows which videos he's launching are really important and which are just kind of interesting updates on some particular subset of the problem or whatever. And so he knows which ones are really hot in advance. With a little bit of advanced planning, he communicates to his audience in advance a little infomercial. Hey, everybody, come to my watch party after party. We're going to be launching a really important video about global warming this Friday, February 9th. Okay. So, there you have it. We do that. Let me just take this call real quick. I'll be right back. Did I miss anything, or were you all just waiting for me? Anyway, I don't think I heard anything. So,
Nope, I don't think you heard anything.
okay, very good. All right, so carrying on. So if an invite is put out and the invite reaches the ears of, say 20,000 people that are Paul Beckwith followers, what percentage of those, just take a guess in your own mind, what percentage of those might respond to a cordial invitation from Paul Beckwith himself, inviting you to join us in a conversation about all these topics, to join with the rest of the community, the rest of the audience? See, just to cut to the chase here, what I see that moment is the moment where we help that audience transform from an audience into a community that can talk with each other other than, passing notes under the door, which is what I call the YouTube chats. They're asynchronous, they're after the fact. At least a Chatterfall is live. But if you just post a YouTube video to the internet, it's only after the fact asynchronous that you get. And you have to type it all in and everything. And anyway, can't we just break down the walls for a moment here and talk with each other? That's what the after party is all about. I mean, in a way, it's kind of the most obvious thing in the universe, right? Isn't it? It's the most obvious thing in the freaking universe. Once you see it, once you're able to articulate it, well, guess what? We're running an experiment right now. We just sent a nice email invitation to Paul to say, hey, Paul, join us, right? And, but first, let's talk. So hopefully he'll show up at some point today and we can actually talk with him about it. And whoever's here is here. James will be available starting at 2 o'clock Pacific. Go ahead, Jack. Yes.
Yes. So what you're describing to your after party is pretty much like the after chat that they do for Humanity Rising.
That's exactly it. That's the model. That's the model. Okay. And if you haven't been, I highly recommend you go just to be a student of it. Just to, walk into the dojo and, you see all these dudes with white robes and black belts going, oh, yeah, everybody, just observe it. Observe humanity in the wild when we've been both focused and unleashed, focused by an artifact, a Humanity Rising episode. Now, whether that's synchronous, live, synchronous, or asynchronous, pre-recorded and then released, whatever, either case, you can have a watch party. Of course, if it's live, it's kind of more exciting. But, asynchronous, fine. Do a watch party followed by an after party. And everyone just talks, yeah, we just talk with each other. We're all Paul Beckwith fans. That's a huge something in common. That's a huge, huge, huge thing. And it also focuses us and it also filters us. We're the climate nerds gone wild. Well, we need to meet each other so we can go from isolated climate nerds to triumph of the nerds. Triumph of the climate nerds. What does triumph look like? Cooling the planet in time to save life on Earth. Anyway, this is that community, except we're not a community. We can't talk to each other other than notes under the door. Anyway, I'll go ahead and put our Zoom link into the chats, the comments of Paul Beckwith's videos. But I first want to talk with Paul and say, hey, Paul, can we do this? We'll do what? We'll take one of your soon to be powerful videos, the kind that get tens of thousands of views, and do an infomercial a week in advance. Hey, in a week on this time in this channel here, I'm going to launch this thing and we're going to do it live or whatever, or not, or I'll just post it. But within half an hour of us posting it, we're doing a watch party just to give everyone some, notice. Watch party, top of the hour. Here's the Zoom link. Everyone can join. We screen share, mute all mics, play the Paul Beckwith video, and then unmute the mics. And we're talking with each other. And guess what? Here's a pop quiz just for Victor. If you'll play with me for a second here, brother. All right, pop quiz for Victor. If hundreds of people show up at once, is that a good problem to have or a bad problem to have? And you're muted, Victor. You're muted.
I said it depends on whether they've got pitchforks, but let's say in general, let's say a good problem to have. Yep.
I would call it a great problem to have, right? And because look, if he invites 20, if 20,000 get the invite and 10% show up, that's 2,000 people. You know, we've got, with 100 Zoom rooms, we're packing them in at 20 per room. I say at that point, we just do random distribution of the people into however many per room, because we've got that feature. Does that work up to 100 Zoom rooms? Why would breakout rooms? Why wouldn't it? So we do a world cafe. Hey, welcome everybody, we say to the crowd of 2,000. And then I'm going to talk for a couple of minutes. Victor's going to talk for a couple of minutes. Marco, a couple of minutes. So, you know, Mike, whatever, a couple of minutes each. And then we turn it over to, and then we're going to go to breakout rooms and then just get to know each other, pass around the mic, right? We're trying to have as many co-hosts as possible. Peter will have sent us a list of people to make co-host that can help manage because this is going to be a this is going to be a climate conference, for crying out loud, with 2,000 people, all of whom are grounded in the same high level material that Paul Beckwith puts out. I mean, it's so simple. It focuses us. And we'd been actually looking at this from a theoretical standpoint and had come to the conclusion that the more focused and pre-filtered the group, the more they're going to see themselves as a tribe, and the more they're going to start dancing together versus questioning each other. Well, who sent you? Why are you here? What? I don't agree with that. You know, the people who watch Paul Beckwith, it's people like me and James, right? And Marco, people who are freaking, you know, urgent beyond words about the climate, need the latest information. And now guess what? It's time for us to come together and create our own pitchforks of love. But we'll be, from the get-go, an army of 2,000 climate nerds gone wild. It'll be Triumph of the Nerds. It'll be Silicon Valley meets climate, right? Passing the feather. Yes, Rick. Were you going to say something, Rick?
Nope, I hadn't planned on saying anything. I am
Oh, I'm
considering,
sorry.
it's getting super hot in here though. I think I might step outside for a moment.
Okay, thanks for the heads up on that. And I'm looking in the chat here to see if I missed anything.
Well, I have a question. Were you talking about, when you say 2,000, that's a percentage of the 30,000 that Beckwith has?
I was picking a more conservative 20,000. Let's say 20,000 people hear his infomercial invite to come
But
join
you know,
his first.
2,000 is 10% of 20,000.
That's what I was saying.
That's
That's exactly what I was saying. I was saying if 20,000 people receive the invitation, conservatively, come on, minimum 10% are going to show up.
Okay.
So 10% of 20,000 people who get the invitation, 10% of those 20,000 equals 2,000. That's a hell of a lot of people.
2%.
No, 10%. Anyway, but you know, guess what? Even if it were 2%, that's going to be 400 people. 2% is 400 people. That's still too many to have in one freaking room. We're still going to need to go to breakout rooms, you know, except maybe, I don't know, 5 per room.
Yeah, this is a big thing, trying to get a lot of people conversing together in a good way. I mean, if you have a lot of people, if you say in one conversation.
There's a solution to that, Jack. There is a solution to that.
Well,
Please listen carefully.
that's what I was getting to. You just interrupted me.
I'm so sorry. Back.
That's okay. Not a big deal. I was just saying that I was getting that finding the solution is, I mean, it's a little difficult. It's a pretty complicated thing to get that many people communicating on a close level. But it is something, but I do agree, it's something that we really have to learn how to do because we have to do it one way or another. There's other ways, but this is, this is the way that you're trying to do it. And it's good to work on it. So I'll go along with that.
Well, what I'm suggesting is we have an out-of-the-box solution. I'm not saying it's the optimal solution, but we have an out-of-the-box solution to that very problem. Let's say 1,000 people show up. Well, guess what? We can talk with them 2 minutes each. Victor talks for 2 minutes. Marco talks for 2 minutes. I talk for 2 minutes. You talk for 2 minutes. Sam talks for, that's 10 minutes of intro. Right. And then we say at the end of those 10 minutes, just sit on your hands for 10 minutes and listen. And then guess what? At the end of those 10 minutes, we're all going to go into breakout rooms of 10 people each. There's 1,000 people in this meeting right now. We're going to be in breakout rooms of 10 people each. And then it really slows down. Now you're in a much more manageable situation. We give you guys 20, 30 minutes to get to know each other, maybe 20 minutes to get to know each other. Everyone talks for 2 minutes each. You can say a lot in 2 minutes. And, and then we go back to the main room to check in. And do people want to share any highlights? And, people share some highlights. And then we say, now we're going to go into, 50 different pre-designed breakout rooms to cover the following 50 topics. And Marco, do you have a problem with naming all 50 rooms? You can probably set them up in advance, even before the meeting starts. So if you need like a couple hours to set up all the rooms or whatever,
Yeah.
you just do it, right? Yeah, that's not a
Yeah,
problem.
you can label them all.
Yeah, so then we're going to go to these named rooms, okay? Then you get to pick and choose which topic you want to go to. And so you got, 50 different rooms with 20 people each on average. That's a good size little gathering. And so then think of these 50 different conversations, these 50 different breakout rooms, as being 50 different subtopics. Some of them subtopics, a few of them subtopics in some logical taxonomy. And then guess what? Think of that taxonomy like a brain, like a neural network, this super highway of neural connectivity, these super connected 50 rooms, because they're all children of the same mother room, and they're all one gathering, one community. We're the Paul Beckwith community, right? So the Paul Beckwith community shows up. So think of those 50 conversations as 50 like mega neurons connected in this emergent mega brain. And each of those 50 mega neurons has 20 people in it. Each mega neuron is a collective intelligence of 20 people pumping away and sending signals to the other, to the other conversations. Why not? And some people will be cross-pollinating from one conversation to another. Why not? Listen, what I'm saying right now is going to sound like the most obvious thing in the world to the smartest 1% of humanity a year from now. They're going to be listening. They'll be like, yeah, we know all that. We know all that. We live and breathe it. This is obvious. And they're going to have a hard time imagining the world before having this capability. We're right on the cusp, everybody. This is super important to acknowledge. We're right on the cusp. We're not talking about something hypothetical, theoretical that maybe will happen if we're lucky in 10, 50 years. We're going to be launching this as soon as Paul Beckwith is ready, frankly. We launch this, right? And, and if you haven't guessed it already, yes, we're going to be doing a bunch of Paul Beckwiths in parallel, because each one kind of has their own time scale. Some of them are in the middle of important life stuff and they need a couple of weeks to wrap their head around this and kind of visualize it and what, okay, fine. It's there. Listen, it's his after party. And in fact, if he wants to do it in his own Zoom room, he can do that. It's going to be quite an undertaking. You know, we've got the capacity for it, and we're happy, but we're happy to help him out in his own Zoom room, or if he wants to come to ours or whatever. But one of the advantages of doing the after party in a place like ours, like this Zoom room, is that it can go on forever because we'll have the volunteers to keep it open, right? So anyway, but regardless, those are details. The important thing is that we do it. And once that happens, oh my goodness, look at this mega brain with these 50 mega neurons, each one focused on a specific vital facet of, you know, the whole global warming topic space, such as, for example, the aerosol masking effect. Vitally important. Oh my goodness, crucial to understand this. It's totally changed the numbers from pre-consciousness about it to you know, scientific consensus around it, that it's a real thing and it's super important. You know, there's like 50 subtopics and subtopics. You guys get what I'm saying for the whole global warming thing? 50-ish. We're going to cover them all at the first meeting. That's how powerful this is. So yeah, we'll spend some time, you know, with some Tony Robbins kind of character up on the big stage, you know, talking to all thousands for a couple of minutes each. You know, guys like Jack and Victor, you know, Marco, myself, Peter, you know, Mike. So, you know, everyone just says some really cool shit about what we're doing, and then we fucking go do it. The next phase, 20 minutes in a breakout room where you just kind of meet some other people here, totally random. It's kind of like speed dating for the Paul Beckwith community, multi-person speed dating. Why the hell not? Okay, then we all come back to the main room, share insights and happy stories. At this point, everyone's freaking going wild. Can you feel the excitement of those 1,000 people in the main room at that moment? Yes, no, maybe, hello, hello, is there a pulse there? Marco, Marco.
So is this similar to what is that called? The regenerative pollination thing? Do I have the right word? The thing that Sam or that Stan Focus talks about a lot.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Absolutely.
talking about? Is that
sweetheart, thank you.
This sounds a little bit like that,
Okay.
only on a much larger scale.
Exactly. It's just on a much larger scale. That's the key, because guess what? Once we start this and it's successful at the Paul Beckwith scale, right? There's a lot of Paul Beckwiths out there. Goodness, there's got to be millions of people posting content, publishing regular YouTube videos, regular Facebook live stream, recorded broadcast events, blah, 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 blog postings, podcasts. Are you kidding me? Every third person out there is now a podcaster. Give me a break. So there's an infinite number of Paul Beckwiths. Now, how many of those Paul Beckwiths are really focused on something that's we would consider obviously important? If it's the Barbie doll club, I don't know, Marco. But you know what? If in doubt, listen, if they want to be in the database, let them be in the database. Maybe they've got some important statement to make about modern society and ego and image and superficiality. Okay, fine, bring in the Barbie doll club. The important thing is we're in the process of creating. So let's call the original Paul Beckwith, not the generic, but the actual specific Paul Beckwith community. Let's call that a pod of CHI, C-H-I, collective human intelligence. CHI is Chizzy minus the S, minus the super, collective human intelligence. Chizzy is collective human super intelligence, right? So again, the actual specific Paul Beckwith community, the original Paul Beckwith community, we could call it a pod of Chi. It's a pod of collective human intelligence. Is it super intelligent? Well, conservatively, let's assume not. It's getting there. But with 1,000 people, I just wonder if we can have an actual collective human super intelligence with only 1,000 people meeting once a week. But we're definitely getting there. Now, when the success of that model, when word leaks out about the success of that model, because we're going to be broadcasting, recording, transcribing, and most importantly, people are going to share their experiences with their friends. I went to this amazing freaking convergence, the Paul Beckwith after party. Who knew? Homeboy could throw such an exciting party. What made it exciting? All of us. We just need the damn invitation. Multiply that by, now in the generic, 1,000 Paul Beckwiths focusing on something important. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, the other thing there's well, you know, the groups like what is it, Unity Earth? You know, they put on with you know, their shows every week. They have get-togethers. I guess what I'm getting at is people who are associated with that and associated with like Free the World and Humanity Rising. Well, Humanity Rising might have a different type of fusion. But what I'm getting at, a lot of these groups that come together, they're into what's going on and want a better world, but they really aren't probably. I'm wondering how many of those people, what percentage of those people do you think would be wanting to participate in something like this? You know, like the people who do Unity Earth, let's say. I mean, and you're familiar with that. You've watched Unity Earth and been part of the things, yeah. Because I
Yeah.
find something lacking with that group in the sense that they're great people. That
Should I just?
1 second. I'll be right back. Carry on, you guys. I'll be.
okay, well, I don't carrying on without Jamin being there. It's kind of no. Well, there you are.
I'll be back in. I'm back. I'll just be mildly distracted, but I'm totally hearing the conversation. So, I would say that the people who participate in Unity Earth, and these big gatherings and whatnot, these big Zoom gatherings, I'd say a very high percentage of those people would be interested in participating in, drum roll, much more specific after parties. Like, for example, the Paul Beckwith after party. and other and other specific the Shannon MacArthur Our Heart Gardens after party, the Vegan Convergence after party. Marco, this just hit us on the head like a ton of bricks, like a few hours after the last Vegan Convergence had ended, but now we're ready for the next one. They need an after party. There's a bunch of diehards who just don't want to give up. 1 second, I'll be.
Yeah, and the vegan convergences happen, you know, every quarter. So there's, you know, at least those opportunities to do that, and they run 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, towards the end of each quarter, end of the month of each quarter.
And that's a pretty conscious group. I mean,
Yeah,
for vegans,
it's
there's a certain consciousness they have. They definitely have a food consciousness, but they would
right.
be interested in taking it to the next level and actually, because I mean, I think you have to get at, and I'll mention this again when Jamin gets back, is the idea that we have to really get people who really are interested in creating a better world.
Right,
Well,
and
actually,
well, that's, yeah, climate healers, you know, in the vegan convergence, they're all about changing the world for the better, of course.
yeah, so we've got now 2 prime examples, the Paul Beckwith community and the Vegan Convergence. I mean, can you imagine Silas saying no to an after party for the Vegan Convergence? So there's two prime examples.
You know, I'm sure he'll think. Yeah.
Yeah, why would he, you know?
Yeah, and let's think of other examples.
Yes, we put it
Maybe they head this way.
this
Yeah,
way. Put in. Put in.
my mic is unmuted.
Okay, hi guys.
Yeah.
We're doing dog
Hi,
transferring. Let's see if that.
Hi, Melissa.
They say hi. They say hi, sweetheart. Okay, good. All right. Well, I've got a baby kangaroo. Now I know what it's like to be a kangaroo. Got a little kangaroo moment going on.
He's definitely dad now.
Yep. Let me
I'm
see
that-
that, Emmy.
That's funny. She does kind of look like a little Joey, actually, with the ears.
Hold on.
What did you
Yeah,
call me? I am
there
Yoda.
could be a kangaroo in there, huh?
Yeah.
I am Yoda. And I want you to listen to Jamin. Please. Huh? I will. I will. You just took her to the bathroom? Okay. All right. So anyway, I guess Yoda and I'll just hang out like this. Love you, sweetie. Thanks. So what we're talking about is not just people who want to change the world, but people who are specific on certain areas of focus, like the Paul Beckwith community. They're focused on global warming. The vegan community is focused on veganism. So what the Block Party has done is brought in those two and several dozen other special interest groups. For lack of a better word, I'm kind of slapping us around a bit. I'm part of the special interest group. So, you know, so what? You know, but we're talking about a few dozen special interest groups and basically all clamoring for the microphone and tripping over each other because no one's willing to row in the right direction. Here's the solution. Create separate pods of chi, separate pods of collective human intelligence for each and every such group. In the case of Paul Beckwith, the thing is the climate community, it's so fragmented. People talk to each other at conferences and then occasionally on some Zoom meetings here and there, but it's completely fragmented. I'd say Paul Beckwith has the potential to bring us together like no other leader. And yes, I said leader. Oh, but I don't want to be a leader. Well, too bad. You are. We're all listening to you, so that makes you a leader. Now bring us together. Throw an after party. I mean, what could be simpler? Am I missing something? Is there something even simpler and better than
Probably.
this? All right, well, out with it then, Jack. Let's everybody mute their
I
microphones
don't
except
know
for
what's
Jack.
missing, but it's almost impossible not to be missing something. Oh, I guess I may be introducing this before you're ready, and that's fine. Just tell me. But I mean, so have you already thought of a way that, like you say, you have all these after parties, and they're all kind of getting together, but getting together in different things. There's still a kind of a silo effect, even though they're part of the group. So I guess what I'm wondering, have you gotten to the point of figuring out how you bring all these together somehow to do important things? Because at some point we have to, I think, get us all, or most of us, or a large percentage of us together if we're going to really take on the powers that be and create something better. But I might be getting too far ahead, but I was kind of curious.
No, you're not getting too far ahead. You're getting right to the heart of it. Because what if the Paul Beckwith, global warming community and the vegan community and a few dozen other communities are all brought together? They first come to their respective after parties. Oh, hallelujah. Marco, thank you for throwing the after party to the vegan convergence. Before they just hung up on us all. Well, we're throwing the after party. So that'll happen at the next vegan convergence. It's essential. In hindsight, it's an obvious missing, right? An obvious missing. My goodness, if we'd only thought about the concept of the after party for COP26, Darth Vader could have led the after party for weeks from that moment forward. If only we had known. We're in the middle of a €4 and growing after party after the harmonic convergence in 2020. In fact, one could say that the harmonic convergence here has took over. All right. Anyway, that was a joke. Not a joke. Well, a serious joke. But now it's time to create after parties galore. And then they will cross-pollinate to each other. Some of the vegans will come to the meetings about climate as they have in the past. Actually, this happened in the past, and we co-created Vegan Reflection. How cool is that? It's where vegans intersect and overlap with SRM folks. SRM being the only way to cool the planet in time. That's it. That's remotely possible. Forget practical. Possible. I'll take impractical as long as it's, let it be super expensive. But in the case of SRM, we can actually do it so cheaply, so inexpensively. It's ridiculous. It's laughable how inexpensive it'll be.
Yeah, well, vegan people and climate people, and I would be surprised if there wasn't a lot of cross pollination already. I mean, I'm sure a big percentage of vegans are into the climate thing, and of course, being vegan, you don't eat meat, so you take away the the cattle, or a big percentage of the cattle toxins that go into the atmosphere.
Exactly. Cattle are the #1 driver. #1. Livestock, over 80% of climate change has been caused by animal agriculture. So it's the lion's share, the vast majority. So yes, there's this natural affinity. In fact, Dr. Silas Rao calls his main organization Climate Healers. Food Healers is a subset of Climate Healers. That's his biggie. So the overlaps between the vegan world and the global warming world are well known, huge, awesome, and beautiful. Vegan Reflection was named to represent that intersection of vegans and SRM folks, for example. That's even more specific than just climate folks, because there's a lot of climate folks who are not into SRM.
What is SRM?
Solar radiation management. It basically means reflecting a portion of the sunlight back into space so we can cool the planet. We've talked about that before, haven't we?
Well, you may have, but maybe not when I was there.
Okay. Anyway, it's the singular key for stopping and then reversing global warming. It's the key, Jack. It is the key. But not a lot of people know about it. So we created Vegan Reflection as the intersection of veganism with SRM.
Yeah, and
That's an example.
And I can't, I don't know all the details or whatever, but I have heard arguments that reflecting the sun has some serious problems. And I don't know what they are, but I've heard credible people on a couple of occasions talk about that. So I'm just kind of wondering if yeah, I mean, it sounded like it could be a problem.
Well, two
But I
thoughts
mean,
on
but
that.
you're stuck, yeah, we don't want to get stuck on that particular thing. I agree. That's not what we're talking about.
No, and that's exactly why we need to bring the Paul Beckwith community, which is arguably not quite yet a community yet, but will be as soon as we throw after party number 1.
And then a Facebook group too, right?
Yeah, we'll launch a Facebook group along with it, or we'll join an existing one or whatever, but we'll be passing the word through myriad channels. But at its core, we are something very simple. A Zoom meeting where you first screen share the video, the latest video, and then talk about it afterwards. And if there's 1,000 people there, like we talked about step by step what we do. It's that simple. There's nothing more to it than that. It's really that simple. Get the people together and they will self-organize into whatever topic spaces you want. We can predefine 50. We can leave the other 50 for people to say, hey, no, I want to create a specific space that's just about this. Fine. Go for it.
Or like some of the conferences do
I'll be
in certain sessions, is that they can anybody who has an idea can write it up on the board, and then if enough people sign on to that, then they have a space for it. And if they don't, then they don't. That would be a way to choose what topics would be something that enough people would support to make it useful.
Well, we've talked numbers, Jack. Conservatively, 20,000 people will hear his invitation. Even people who would not be caught dead in a Zoom room with hairy guys like you, me, and Marco, right? They're still going to watch the invitation. The invitation itself is news. You can throw Rotten Tomatoes at us. That meant that the invitation was big news to you. It was so important that you decided to bring out the Rotten Tomatoes and start slinging. It'll be news to everyone. So I'm saying 20,000 people watching his invitation is conservative. You had mentioned 2%. If even 2% of those 20,000 come, that's 400 people.
A good start.
400 people.
But you're thinking, I assume, I think you mentioned it earlier, like maybe getting into the billions. I mean, we have to have maybe that many people involved. If at some point, if we really want to make change.
Well, here's what I'm suggesting: that, like the domino effect, once people hear about how successful Paul Beckwith's after party was, you think Michael Mann is not going to want to do an after party? You think Allison Green or Angela Green or whatever her name is not going to want to do an after party? You think James Hansen, Ye Tao, Guy McPherson?
Yeah, I got your point. They're going to do it. If something is successful, others are going to want to do it for sure. I mean, that's just the way it works. So
It's as simple as that.
You got to make one thing of significant size work really well, and then you'll find followers and others that want to do it too.
Beautiful.
But I probably should leave here pretty soon. But I think you're addressing something that I've been thinking about for quite some time. Is to probably get the numbers together and organized. So
And
I don't want to miss a gem here, but I should get going pretty soon. So but I'll stick around if there are gems coming.
Yeah, yeah. There are more gems coming because what we're talking about here. I mean, here's the thing. So I think at the very beginning I mentioned there's two main prongs to our CHIZY, spelled ZZY, strategy, to accelerate the emergence of CHSI, collective human superintelligence. The two main strategic prongs are, one, putting together, the Google of conversations. Okay. That's number one. And number two, catalyze all the conversations that are beckoning to be had, like beckoning Beckwith. That's what I'm going to call this potential community that's currently lost, trapped in this underground prison cell called potential but not realized. So pop quiz, what are the two prongs? Just tell me your interpretation of those two prongs as I've just articulated them. What is that landing for you? What do you think, etc.?
Well, saying briefly again.
Oh, Mike's here. Marco, you got him? Yeah, so briefly, one is creating the Google, the search engine of conversations.
Oh, okay.
And, every Paul Beckwith after party will be on the schedule, in the calendar, and therefore searchable.
Well, I mean, that Google part of it, that's pretty much a necessary thing, I would think.
It's essential.
Well, I mean, I don't just think, I'm pretty sure.
It's absolutely essential, Jack. It's as essential as the vertebrae to a vertebrate animal, right?
Okay, I'll go along with that.
So that's the first prong. What's the second prong? I'll give you a hint. We've been talking about it a lot today.
The after party?
Exactly, the after party, exactly. Because the after parties are about creating new conversations that then get into the search engine, right?
Uh-huh.
There's a lot of great conversations that are happening right now, but the after parties are going to become a veritable bonanza. And we're not going to be the only organization that's going to be supporting after parties turnkey, right, Marco? I mean, why should we be the only ones?
But then you got to get all these people organizing after parties.
Yeah.
Well,
but
here's how we,
right?
but here's how we do it, Jack. We do it by offering ourselves and our multiple Zoom rooms as platforms for other people's after parties. Bring them here. We'll manage them for you.
Well, that's a good idea.
Like Paul Beckwith, he's a busy guy. You think he wants to have to be manning his own Zoom room for 12 hours while a bunch of climate dorks like myself can't shut the bleep up? No. So we do that for him. We did exactly that for the harmonic convergence. Peter organized that one, and brilliantly so. Thank you, Peter. Hopefully Peter will come back.
Uh-huh. So he did that. He was working with you on that. Cool.
That's how Marco got here. See that guy with the beard there?
Yeah.
That Michiganderthal?
Yep,
Yeah,
I
'cause
came for the
Yeah, I
came
spent
for
a
the
lot.
after party and it never left.
Uh-huh.
So it's a great
Yeah,
way to
I
meet
spent a
great
lot of
people.
time with Peter. Peter and I were in that Unity caravan that crossed the United States. But we only had seven people because of COVID. But anyway, so I
Well,
spent a lot of
that's
time with
beautiful. That's beautiful,
Peter,
Jack.
2020.
That's beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
it was.
beautiful.
We had a
Thank
good
you.
time.
Yeah. No, I remember watching that from a distance with Melissa. But anyway,
But
the key gold nugget. Why isn't Mike in the breakout room, Marco? You working on that?
I don't know, he disappeared.
Okay. Anyway, well, good news is he's trying to get back in at least. Okay. Yeah. So, this is a bonanza waiting to happen, the after party, because we're going to make the Paul Beckwith one so successful, the vegan one so successful, right? And these are going to grow exponentially. And we're going to make so many of them so successful. We'll probably be up to a dozen Zoom rooms in no time. I mean, if you have small after parties to relatively, low attendance meetings, not that they're not important, just that they're low attendance for whatever reason. Maybe it's a very specialized topic that only a few dozen people in the world even have the competence to drill that deep into and be meaningful. Well, it's about time we get those few dozen people together, right? Oh, James is here. Awesome. Let's bring him in here to the breakout room. Okay, thanks, Marco. James,
No worries.
welcome. Welcome, James.
Hey, lads, sorry I'm late down there this evening. But yeah, as I said, I have little Scarlett here with me. She's here at the moment because Stephanie's just gone down to the shops. But she was busy painting. I can see you with all the paint on your hands, Scarlett. She's gone, she's shy.
Hey,
Stephanie,
Scarlett.
she's gone up the stairs again.
Okay, no problem.
Oh,
So
I think you're,
what did I miss? What's the
Cam,
crack? Are we live streaming?
yes.
Yep. Live
Okay.
streaming and recording. We're in the midst of the podcast. Here, let me just 2, 1. All right, we're recording again, and this is a perfect time for a little recap. We've been talking about everything from the high level of CHSI to the very specific real life example of, I'll just say, a Paul Beckwith, right? There's obviously no pressure for Paul to do this or not do this or whatever. Totally up to him, whenever it's good for him. But I'll use him as a theoretical example, a hypothetical example, because it's such a perfect example. It takes the number one world's hottest, most urgent problem, pun intended, and it ain't funny. This is the number one hottest issue we've got: global warming. We let this one carry on, and you know what? It wipes us all out. It's that simple. So it's time to put together a collective human intelligence, and that will be immediately emergent with the minimal amount of planning and coaxing from our side, right? Which involves, building kind of a starter taxonomy that the community can add to all that it wants. And we'll have extra overflow Zoom rooms in case we need more breakout rooms. We have hundreds of breakout rooms, 100 breakout rooms per Zoom main room, times as many Zoom rooms as we need. So we'll have the capacity ready, and it will, evolve organically and as a network of conversations, spanning all the dozens of conversations that you could roughly group into problem and solution, problems and solutions, plural, and then go deep on each and every one of those, as many levels as you want, really, because not everyone goes 10 levels deep, but there might be a couple that go 5 or 6 levels deep in terms of subtopic or whatever, right? Anyway, we form this starter taxonomy, but then let it grow organically. Let it discard that one if it wants to and start anew, because people will vote with their feet. People will go to those rooms where there's conversations that are important. And if there's too many people crammed into a single room, let them divide and conquer. You guys seem to want to talk about this aspect of it, go do that. You guys want to talk about this other technical aspect, go do that. You guys want to talk about the public awareness, and go do that. And we'll be here in the main breakout room or whatever group that subdivides into. That's what I'm talking about, organic, divide and conquer. If people think something's important, they'll dogpile there and then figure out how they can help, which means which sub. Anyway, I'm kind of getting into a lot of details, but it's kind of important because climate change is kind of a big topic with a lot of facets and a lot of misperceptions and misunderstandings and other evil stuff. So we got to get to the truth. And this is one way to get to the truth. And the Paul Beckwith community is perfect for that, because they're up for hearing the truth, whatever that truth may be. And he helps break it down for everybody. We love him. It's a perfect example. That's why I'm using him as an example, not because it's a done deal. That's totally up to Paul. Passing.
Yeah, and Jamin, don't be apologetic about getting into the details. We got to get into the details. Although, this may or may not be the proper time to do it, but details obviously are important. The other thing is, I'm assuming, it'd be weird if it wasn't true that, the end product here is to, create a world that works for all. Now, when do you interject that? Like, all these groups are finding what they like, and that's when people are going to do that. So I guess what I'm getting at is, how do you create that situation where, even though they have different primary interests, they're all kind of coming together under the label of creating a world that works for all?
Yeah. Yeah, very important question. 1 second.
Time's up.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to give you an example, just like we've talked about the hypothetical example of Paul Beckwith. And look, and if it ain't Paul, it'll be someone who has a similar audience who is game. All right. So, but so I'm just going to use Paul in the generic. It'll be a Paul, and then there will be a vegan Paul, a vegan Paul, a VP, and Paul
But
and the
Paul
VP.
vegan?
Come on, a vegan Paul. You know what I'm talking about. Now, where those two intersect, that's okay. And where those two communities intersect is called, drum roll, I mentioned it before. Anyone who want to score some points with me? And repeat it in 3, 2, 1. Vegan reflection. See the reflection? Vegan reflection. That's the intersection of veganism with solar radiation management. The only way to cool the planet in time. Period. 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 Are there other important things to do? Yes, there are. But you want to cool the planet in time, there's only one way to get there. Period. And that's SRM, reflectivity. Hence vegan reflection. Anyway, that's an example. That's an example of a bridge building across two topics that are super important. They will seek to incorporate everyone from both camps so that vegan reflection is not just a tiny intersection, but the majority of both communities in the intersection, the vast majority. And then they can then go as a group, as a combination, combination that can then go to the rest of the topics and say, listen, whatever you guys are cooking it up, these two are primary. We need the reflectivity to cool the planet in time so we don't all burn to a crisp, melt to a crisp, sea level rise to a water world event. We need both. And what else you got? Or does what you have fit within this? Right? Oh, we're against animal cruelty. But if it's humanely raised meat, we'll eat it. All right, they need to come into the vegan reflection mainstream. All right, there'll be pressure. Well, if there's pressure to lead them in some other direction, what is it? Let's have the conversation. So vegan reflection got together and said, you know what, we can work together. The vegans and the SRM folks got together and said, we can work together. And out came vegan reflection. It's some really cool stuff.
Are you saying that's already happened, or this is your proposal? This is your vision on the future?
It's my vision. It's both. It's both, and because it. I'm sorry. You were saying.
Yeah, I was just. I mean, you said it as if it's already happened, but I'm thinking you're just painting a picture and just talking about it. Not that it's already happened, right? That the
Are you ready for me to answer?
SRMs have come together.
Are you ready for me to answer?
I am.
The answer is it's both. It both already happened and is pending to happen in a much bigger way. What already happened was very small scale, but it did happen. There was a meeting of the hearts and the minds, and we started to do some public activity, but it just didn't get but so far. Well, guess what? So that's the thing that happened because it didn't have a larger platform. The Paul Beckwith community provides a larger platform, right? A very solid platform that's broad-based, focused on global warming, okay? The vegan community is likewise broad-based and, you know, a very big, rich conversation. The overlap of the two, I think, will be a model, because it's not like veganism and global warming are the only two topics out there. There's stopping war, there's nuclear war specifically, there's resource wars generally as a topic space, war and peace and conflict studies. This has been studied for centuries and very intensively in the last several decades. So let's take what we, that's a topic space, war and peace. My goodness, all these that I'm mentioning, economics, shared economy, recircular economy, all these great things that Jack can talk about, passing the feather to.
Yeah, two things. You added economies, and that's where I'm at, putting together the alternative economic system. But the other thing is, like, of course, I mean, as of course you're well aware, there are probably a number of Paul Beckwiths out there talking about climate change, or people pretty close to that level, because there's a lot of people, a lot of groups. So are you planning on kind of trying to bring more of them into that immediately, or kind of wait till down the road sometime? Like, instead of just inviting Paul Beckwith's group to the after party, inviting various other groups to it at the same time about the same thing.
The after party could be something we do every Friday afternoon and evening, into the evening for those who want to stick around. Totally optional, of course. Come and go as you please. Yeah, I think that'll be inevitably a popular thing. Whether you do it on our platform or some other platform, or your own platform, your own Zoom room, whatever you want to do. Try to do it on a Friday, so that way we can all overlap. We think it's kind of a natural day for it. Sometimes people make plans for the weekend, but they can squeeze in some time on a Friday afternoon, wrap up work early, take a couple hours and do this, and you still have time to spend with the wife and kids in the evening, right? Whatever. I'm just spitballing something there. Friday, Friday afternoon, Friday evening is always a happy time. So, but it'll evolve organically. It's not because we say it should happen on Friday that it doesn't end up happening on a Tuesday instead. I don't know. It'll evolve organically. But the main first events or
Happy hour.
happy hour, absolutely. Well, yeah, it basically means it's a happy hour. It's 5 o'clock, it's Friday afternoon, and it's 5 o'clock somewhere. Are you happy, Jack?
Yeah,
All right.
now I am.
Okay, good. So we offer it up as a standard, and the world will either accept it or reject it, or have 20 competing standards that are all thriving and happy, whatever. The point is that we all come together and make it as public as possible. Like in a little bit here, we're going to enter into the afterglow with whoever's in the room and, mix it up in a little bit here, maybe in 20 minutes or so. I don't know.
So what is the
But
afterglow talks about everything we talked about here?
Yes, and more. That's why it's important that we kind of consolidate here. Are we of a shared understanding, everyone here, that we need both, I'll just say the Google of conversations. We need that for that to emerge. And there's, there's whole families of hashtags that can be used to basically say, hey, we're in that sphere, we're in that hyper object of the universe of conversations for the betterment of all. A very Sarvodaya approach, which might be a good, thing to kind of, hashtag Sarvodaya if you prefer. Do it, but whatever floats your boat, but use that hashtag. That way it not only enters the database, but it enters with that tag on it saying, I'm entering through this channel, right? Through the Sarvodaya channel or through the Chizzy channel or through whatever channel, right? And then that way, that all that data flow would then be consumed, in a non-destructive way, in a non-singular, non-exclusive way, but consumed by the Google of conversations. The Google of conversations would suck down all that data and create a database of all the meetings, all the after parties, the watch parties, the tailgate parties, as well as weekly meetings on whatever topic. Like, the start is near. It's a podcast. Do we have an after party? Yes. What's it called? The Afterglow. And as soon as we end this podcast, boom, we go straight to the after party, which is the Afterglow. It's the after party of the start is near. Duh. But you see how it kind of takes a moment to get those shoes on for the first time, Marco? You know what I'm talking about? Or are you off on bigger and better things?
Oh no! I gotta get them shoes on, and if they're the right size, you still have to break them in.
Exactly. We're in that breaking moment because guess what? None of us had articulated before that Afterglow is the after party of the start is near. Do you see how we never even put that together yet? Do you see that?
Oh, sort
You see
of.
what I mean?
Except I kind of actually did put it together. I didn't realize you hadn't.
No, it's like finding out you have a daughter that you never knew about until like right now. Whoa, we have our first after party. It's called Afterglow. Her name is. We'll just call her Glow. We'll just call her Glow. What's up, Glow? Glow's taking a nap right now, but she's gonna wake up in 18 minutes, and we'll have a nice time. Yeah, that's the after party. That's the after party to the start is near. What more do you want? What more can I say? Isn't it beautiful? Afterglow.
Yeah, Afterglow is nice.
Yeah. So anyway, we're gonna have so many beautiful after parties, and so we can kind of create a schedule for this main room, right? For this main Zoom account, and then another Zoom account will be spillover initially, and then we'll need 5 of them. You know what I mean? And that's just for the people that choose to join our platform. But guess what? From the 22 immutable laws of marketing, it's better to be first than it is to be better. So even if someone later comes along with something which is quote unquote better, more features, more this, oh, we use AI, whatever. Well, guess what? It's more important to be first and get, you know, kind of the low hanging fruit. The Paul Beckwith community is low hanging fruit. It's a community that's itching to come together. When it does, it's going to be a huge success for all the reasons I've talked about. These things are multifaceted, multi-topic. So we need to, divide and conquer, passing the feather.
So that would be the one of the things you do then is search for multiple Paul Beckwith type things. I assume that's, of course, you're not sure that Paul Beckwith's going to go along with it. You may have to find something else. But that's the idea, I assume, right? Is you go do a lot of research and find as many Paul Beckwiths as you can, and continue that.
And
That's
it shouldn't
exactly
be hard,
right.
and it's not going to be hard because there are hundreds of problems, aside from the most obvious, the biggest ones, war and global warming, etc., and pollution. There's hundreds of smaller components to the system that need taken care of, and everybody has a preference to what makes them happy to work on. So there's problems for everybody to solve, and everybody can, rather than divide and conquer, this is more like
Unite and conquer.
Connect and conquer.
Okay.
Once we have the connectivity of the different conversations going on about the different things, and we realize, oh, this is what I want to do, this is what this group wants to do. Well, trees need to be planted, pollution needs to be cleaned up, carbon capture certainly should be worked on, but SRM needs to be worked on. Some even the less desirable forms of SRM are still the things that can affect fast change. Choosing the right SRM is the next topic. The right system to manage So yeah, there's something for everybody. What's not good about this? Everybody gets to be the hero. And with that, I pass the feather.
So do you guys know of other people that are doing something similar to what you're doing, trying to get all these groups of people together and communicating?
Nope. No, there are those that use similar rhetoric, right? But actions speak louder than words. And they're putting together big kind of uni meetings where, hey, let's just get everyone together. And then, we spend all the time praying and acknowledging this and acknowledging that and checking 27 PC checkboxes. And then by the time you get to the meat, somebody screams, it has to be vegan. And so it's a free for all at best. So what we're talking about is really breaking it down and organizing it into its major topic groups like global warming, like, economics, like politics, like culture. These are big, huge sectors of the map, each of them, like media, right? Like, banking, central banks, cryptocurrencies, metals, resources, anything else that's fungible, liquid money, basically. And all the, and then there's the major topic space of collective human intelligence. Come Chizzy, come collective human superintelligence, right? There's the biosphere, right? Intimately connected with global warming is the biosphere. The biosphere is the one who's taking the brunt of the harm. The mountains don't care, right? The salt water don't care. Well, maybe it does. The grains of sand, it's the living stuff that's bearing the brunt. So the biosphere. And then there's, food and agriculture is a major topic grouping. Well, that's a subset of economy. Okay, well, everything's a subset of everything else. So we're marking off the biggest ones right now. And then each of these has myriad subtopics. So what do we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Good. It fits within the magical 7 plus or minus 2. And we could probably consolidate a couple if we wanted to. But anyway, back to you, Jack.
No, I'm just thinking about that right now. But you're saying that, we have to, just ways of bringing it all together so that we're effective.
Yeah, and I see the simplest, most powerful pathway to achieving that is through after parties. And for the 22 immutable laws of marketing, when you are the market leader, you don't promote so much your own brand as the category. In other words, we're encouraging Paul Beckwith to do an after party. We're offering our total support services. Do it here if you want. But if he wants to do it in his own Zoom room, we're still offering whatever support he may want or need. And if he says, look, I got this, the only support I need is that you guys show up. Hey, Paul, we'll be there. We're so excited to be there. So we have no attachment to like running his, I just want to be super clear about that. We have no attachment at all to the idea of running his after party, hosting his after party, organizing it, co-organizing it with him, whatever he wants. We're just like, standing at his attention.
Yeah, but like you were saying earlier, the whole idea and why you're willing to host these after parties is because that'll bring people together to do it. I mean, if you're not hosting them, it's probably not going to happen. Or if somebody's not willing, to host these things that you're trying to bring together. So I assume that that's your way of bringing all this together, is that you are willing to do the after party, all the things that are required, the technology, etc., to bring those together, right? And that's why people are going to come to that after party.
Yeah, and it's totally within our means. We could literally manage, 1,000 people in this Zoom room with all its breakout rooms, as I discussed earlier in detail. It's all in the recording. And I think it is untapped potential that's just going to burst. Once we open up the first one, they're going to start bursting all over the place. And I think there'll probably be multiple platforms hosting after parties. We should call it third party. That's hilarious. Third party after party. Let me write that down. Third party after party. TPAP.
So you want to kind of be the central after party provider in a sense.
No, we just want to be a after party provider. And right now it looks like we'll be the first. And it's better to be first than it is to be better. That's law number 1 of the immutable laws of marketing. It's better to be first than it is to be better. We just want to be the first ones. And we may well be the largest, the biggest, who knows, or maybe not. Who knows? Maybe some other big platform will jump in there. Zoom itself as a corporation might jump in there and say, hey, free Zoom rooms for everybody that comes and does it on this platform. You know, great. So the more people who are,
Yeah, but
you know, gunning for the number one spot, right? The more people who are gunning for the number one spot, the better, as far as I'm concerned. You know, let there be after parties here, there, and everywhere, because we need a lot of support for these after parties. We're not going to try to take it all on ourselves. If we're the only ones and no one else is doing it, we'll just grow exponentially as more and more people show up and say, hey, we want to be a part of it. Yeah.
yeah, but so many things.
Yeah, you had
There's a brand
Sure.
that people go to.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Jack, I missed that. What was that about brand?
That and pretty much anything that people are wanting, they have there's a certain place where most people go. Like let's say Amazon for buying books or
Oh.
something like that.
Okay, gotcha.
So
Yeah.
And so I guess what I'm saying is that it would be if, and I know you're not trying to take anything away from somebody else, but if this particular, Afterglow thing became, I mean, I guess some effort could be put into that to make it that place, that Amazon of after parties. That makes sense.
It makes total sense. And I think it's actually kind of inevitable now that you put it in those terms that we will become, Chizzy will become Chizzy, right? Will become, the Coca-Cola of public after parties that everyone can attend. And one of
Right.
our main competencies is filtering out the Zoom bombers and figuring out who to make co-host and who goes into the fast track training program, because as we get flooded with people, we're going to need to have a fast track training program to train people who can host, breakout rooms.
Yeah, I mean, if you start being successful, you're going to get infiltrated. There's no doubt about that.
Dude, I think
Anytime anybody does anything that threatens the status quo and threatens the power hierarchy, they're going to get infiltrated big time. And that's
oh yeah, there's no question we're going to be infiltrated.
Huh?
I'm ready. Marco, are you ready?
Yeah, not an issue.
I mean,
Not an issue. I don't know about that.
Well, let's say we get infiltrated by some three lever agency. Okay. We're broadcasting this anyway. What are they going to come in and do? Control our minds, through the Zoom screen? I think the opposite is much more likely. We get to retrain them. We get to retrain them for a much more powerful mission, which is to join us, bring the whole agency, right? I'm not interested in a couple of infiltrators.
About that being right. I mean, that's.
How could it not be? They're going to a breakout room, for fast track training, and there's Marco stirring his pot of stew. Yeah, good food. And you're like, ugh. Right? So, they need to man up and woman up, and really get into it. We're going to need a lot of hands on deck. That's just reality. So, we have to go into this with the mentality of what it is fast becoming. Okay. And what it is fast becoming is CHSI. Now, our brand is Chizzy, Chizzy, um, which is like, you know, creating the Coca-Cola of soft drinks, the Xerox of copiers, the Band-Aid of bandages, you know, and so many other well-known examples, right?
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
Chizzy becomes, you know, the leading brand of after parties. It becomes after party central. It becomes after party central. And so people will come here not knowing what after party they want to go to. They just heard there's a lot of after parties on Friday afternoons and evenings because, you know, that's when we started. And again, it's better to be first than it is to be better. And it's kind of hard to beat Fridays. No, come to the Saturday one. Well, what's everyone going to be talking about on the Saturday one? Whatever they talked about on Friday. Right? That's the answer to that joke, right, Marco? Of course, there's going to be a bunch of after parties on Saturday because a lot of people are going to want to party on Saturday evening. That just works best for them. Okay, great. You know, let there be after parties every day. Let every day be Sarvo Day.
We
Let
could
every
set it
day
up
be
like
Sarvo.
a cocktail lounge with big
Well,
screens with the after party happening on the big screen. But at the same time, it's in kind of a cocktail room where people are having their happy hour as part of the after party. I mean, I can visualize something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and well, in fact, look, here's, you know, there's going to be several, we're going to be operating several Zoom rooms, right? I might be super hosting one, Marco another, you know, James another, whatever. And those, they man the main rooms of those Zoom accounts. These are whole Zoom accounts, you know, like just like this one. And you know, managing the evolution of the breakout rooms within their particular Zoom account. Some of these will be just like battlefield inaugurated. There's too many people gushing in. We need to open up 10 new rooms because guess what? That's what's going to happen. That's the mentality we need to get into. Why? Because then we visualize it, we co-create it, we co-manifest it. Coman, that sounds like a superhero. Coman, captain of the barbarians. Well, it's collective intelligence. It's co-creation, right? Co-manifestation. And there'll be meditation rooms and yoga rooms. There'll be all kinds of stuff going on. I mean, Jack, this is what we've been dreaming of since the 60s when people first started smoking grass. This is what we've been dreaming of since the 60s. It's finally coming together. Why? Because we've got Zoom and everyone's connected and somebody knew how to throw a party and his name was Jack Strasberg. And he said, you know what? I'm in. Let's do this. How can I help? Well, Jack, how would you like to manage a whole Zoom account with multiple breakout rooms? And what space would you like to, you know, preside over topic wise or community wise? I mean, just think about that. You can take that as a homework assignment if you want. But now I'm more convinced than ever that yes, we want to get on this Unity thing and do an interview. If it's a half an hour interview, I can lay this all out in a few minutes because it's become simplified. It's become so simplified, which is what we need right now. And it's so powerful. And there's pent up demand. There is pent up demand for this. That's crucial. Back.
I
Or
wasn't there for a
Marco.
minute. Disappeared.
Yeah, go.
Oh, there you are.
Well, was
Oh,
Jack
Yeah,
going to
no,
say
I
something?
think we've.
Go ahead.
Well, we're
I
close
was
to
just
the end
gonna
of
say,
our,
we're,
go ahead, Marco.
yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. We've come pretty much for full circle more than once. I think we're ready to wrap it and have our afterglow.
Okay, well, I've got one last thing here. Jamin, so you
Yeah,
mentioned
go.
that you might want to do an interview with We the World as part of the Martin Luther King thing. Okay, well, I'll talk to Jana, because Jana's in love with you, you know. I mean, she just, anytime we do events, she says, Jack, you gotta get Jamin involved. So here it is. Opportunity, I think.
All right.
Not. So I'll talk to her about it and see if she's still in on it, and if she can handle the subject. I've kind of already sent her an email that kind of explains a lot of it. So this will have to happen, fairly soon, because this whole thing ends on February 25th. So we got some time, but we're going to pre-record, so that'll make things flexible.
Oh, good.
So,
well, I would say, yeah. Okay, yeah.
it's a
Let's
half
you
hour.
and I follow up on that. Let's you and I follow up on that offline.
All right.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay, good. Well, yeah, I think I'm complete. I mean, I think we've pretty much covered all the bases here. So please keep coming and keep watching. The start is near, and please keep coming to the block party so we can talk about this more directly. Love you all. Any last words from anyone before we end this recording? Which will be about
No,
an
I think
hour
all I
and
have,
45 minutes.
all I have
No, I guess
to
I agree with
say
Marco.
is yeah, we'll do it again next week, and hopefully with more updates, progress.
So is this thing that we're talking about?
And
I'm sorry, Marco. Go ahead if you want. If you don't want to.
no, I'm good. I'm good. I was finished.
So this basic idea of bringing people together and using the after party as a means to do that, and how we go about the next step on that, is that going to be kind of a regular focus for these meetings on Friday afternoon on the podcast? Okay. It makes sense. I mean, that's one thing I've been thinking for a long time, that we need to bring the planet, all the people who want to have a world that works for all together, and thinking about how that would happen, because it seems like that's a huge thing, but you have some good ideas, these are some good ideas. So we'll see. Is the after party the way? Well, let's hope so.
And here's the thing, Jack, it can grow. I know we're getting a little bit past our time, and we'll be back, and we'll be a couple minutes late to the afterglow, but this won't take long. But it is completely decentralized. It's not under our control or anyone's control. That's the beautiful thing about the after party concept, is you just declare an after party and tweet it out with hashtag after party, or hashtag Chizzy, or hashtag Dutch 42, or hashtag whatever you want, right? And it's all good. And that way it'll just help the search engine better organize and help better guide you too. And then we're going to have all kinds of really great pattern matching tools to help people find those after parties that they would resonate the most with. Some people may not have even heard of Paul Beckwith. So how are they going to hear about his after party? So people are going to start spreading word of mouth and through their social media, come to this after party. Even if you don't know anything about it, the after party is a great place to start, because you get to meet people, you get to hear perspectives. Hey, how long have you been, the Paul Beckwith fan? Not how long have you been doing after parties for? No gentleman asked that question. It's how long have you been a Paul Beckwith fan? It's all about Paul Beckwith when you're in the Paul Beckwith after party. the after party becomes that venue that you're like, oh man, a couple days later, I missed them. I'm going to go back this Friday. And then you make it a regular thing. It's those things that happen on a weekly basis, I think, are going to pick up huge momentum and have huge exponential growth. They'll be reliable. You know, you can jump in there and exciting things are happening, right? So there's going to be the Paul Beckwith community, the vegan community, I did write some down that I want to get out there. This won't take long. So for, like, say, the biosphere, it'd be like Dr. Silas Rao. Food and agriculture, whoever his buddy is, that doctor who's the food and agriculture guru. For global warming, Paul Beckwith community. For economics, the Professor Richard Wolff and his community. For politics, Noam Chomsky and his community. For culture, Jordan Peterson and his community. These are examples, and I'm deliberately picking controversial ones. For the media, Alex Jones or someone like that, or more likely a bunch of someone's like that. I don't know. I'm just throwing out random, Donald Trump, people who shake stuff up.
So what time do I have to be down there by? Okay, well, good. So we got it done, huh?
Yes, we did, Jack.
All
we
right.
got it done.
Thank you very much. I'll be down there.
Well, you're most welcome.
Bye.
See you there. Thanks, Jack. Okay. So, I'm just throwing out crazy examples for the, banking, finance, crypto, and all the other money stuff. I forget Homeboy's name, but let's just call him the money homeboy. Now, for the big topic space of collective human and whatever. For the big space of collective human intelligence, guess what? It's right here, baby. It's right here. This community. And this community is going to be growing because guess what? We're hosting all the after parties. How are we not going to grow? Something's going to rub off on us. Something good. I mean, come on. People are going to say, wow, this is amazing what you all are doing. Now suddenly there's a place to go every Friday to fucking party like crazy. Right? Suddenly. At long last.
Oh. Can you guys hear me okay? I think I just changed from speak microphones. I guess we're okay. Thumbs up if you can hear me. Can you hear me? Yes, no, maybe. Okay, great. Thanks. All right. So we're going to have so many thriving after parties. And those are going to be the ones that we're going to be doing. And then other platforms are going to be doing after parties. I guarantee you other platforms will start doing, and that's good news for us. People will have choice, right? People will have choice.
That's a lot of what it's all about. I mean, building the alternative system, to me, it comes down to presenting options. And presenting options is the most democratic way to do something, I think.
Exactly. And if your option or your idea doesn't fit within a given conversation, start a new one. Put it on the map. It'll be on the map. It'll be in the Google. Yeah. I want to hear about conversations that have to do with the transformation of humanity. Whoa, there's going to be a whole bunch going on, as there should be. This and the clusters of those conversations, clustering into these major topic grouping areas like global warming, food and agriculture, etc., right? That clustering creates whole lobes of the emergent planetary brain. The emergent planetary brain. Just the Paul Beckwith community alone is going to be able to spawn probably 100 topics. Multiply that by 1,000 communities, right? And then organize those communities into these different major topic groupings. But soon it'll be tens of thousands of communities because there are millions of Paul Beckwiths out there. I'm saying take even 1% of those millions and you're at many thousands of communities times, what do you like? you know, an average of what, a couple hundred people each? I don't know. Maybe it's more like 1,000 each. That's what we'll find out. Some of these are going to be huge, gigantic. Basically, there's a vegan party every Friday. You know, go to chizzy.net or whatever URL we end up using. Go to chizzy.net to see the network of after parties. That's why it's .net, because it's a network of after parties. Chizzy.net. I think we've got that domain name. Anyway,
So is this the afterglow right here? Are we in it?
no, let's go there. All right. Stopping, unless anyone has anything else to say, I'm going to stop recording in 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you all for being here. Love you all. We'll see you next time. This has been episode 9. The start is near. See you next time. Thanks, everyone.